Alhamdulillah, thank you the organizer for inviting me to share my knowledge together with you. My title basically is battery. Okay, never mind. My title that I want to share with you today basically is how to make sure that the journey, as what will be spoke by our friend just now, and Mr. Scott, that we are actually, once we want to talk about, to how the big data, right, to discover new knowledge, actually is a difficulty journey. So we try to solve that problem actually. How to ensure that the journey can be easy to take in, right? So that's why I try to think about how we can make use knowledge management as a system to help us to manage the big data knowledge, right? So I hope that by end of this presentation, you can get the idea how can we make use the big data knowledge, to make sure that we can share among our community of practice, right? So this is my point actually of today, right? So that's why I try to discover or try to make sure that we try to understand these three kind of theory. The first one, of course, we try to make use knowledge management theory. Second one, we want to try to collaborate with the big data, as what we been heard or we know through based on the previous presentation by Mr. Scott about the data. And the last one, how do we can do collaborate actually. This is involve collaboration technology. Okay? So that's why in this case I try to merge those three concepts into one environment, right? So called as knowledge management in order to manage our knowledge, right? And at the same time, I try to discuss the issues, right? Challenge and the issues in order to implement or to develop the knowledge system. What are the most important issues need to be considered? Okay? And then the last one, of course, we go for the conclusion after that. Right. Now, let me try to understand a little bit what we mean by knowledge management. I'm sure that everyone has understand already about the knowledge management. Okay? Knowledge management, for your information, basically involve three things. Number one, strategy. Number two, process. And then the third one, of course, is the technology. So that's why, once we are trying to understand the strategy, the process, and the last one, the technology, this knowledge management can give us a lot of advantage or benefit to our organization, right? Basically, not just an organization, basically to the person who are in charge, right? Who are involved in producing or generating the new knowledge. Okay? So that's why in my case, basically, I try to make sure that we try to make use knowledge management system as a part of how big data can be, big data basically involve a lot of knowledge. So that's why how do we can manipulate those knowledge to the benefit of community, right? Of practice. Right. Since we're talking about knowledge management, we cannot to be forgot about those three things. Number one, of course, the knowledge that we have basically come from information. Information come from data. So this kind of data, so that's why, if you can see from here, data basically is the beginning of our journey, right? The beginning of our journey, meaning that data basically come from anywhere, right? So that's why we have big data. Okay? Through my definition after this, I would say that, big data basically is involve knowledge that we can be categorized, not just for the purpose of community of practice to share, but they have to go through the first process here. Number one, how do we acquire those knowledge? Right? It's a knowledge management process. Second one, how do we want to store this knowledge? That's why in this case, the storing of knowledge basically is very important, because once we store the knowledge in a proper way, meaning that we can get the knowledge in a proper way as well later on. Okay? And then the third one, basically, once we have the knowledge, how do we can disseminate this knowledge? Disseminate means that to inform, to make sure that everyone aware about the knowledge that we have. Okay? And then the last one, of course, we want to make use of the knowledge, meaning that we want to apply the knowledge. So that's why in this case, the application of knowledge is very important. We can set up as a system, so-called, we can make use the system in terms of two kinds of knowledge over here. I think this one, we are aware about this. Tacit and explicit. Okay. Right. So since we're talking about knowledge, the knowledge, as I mentioned to you, basically come from the people. Okay. So that's why knowledge sharing is very important. So in this case, I try to bring you the most important person in order to develop and to implement the system of KMS. Basically, it comes from this community. I try to bring this community just the purpose of how do we can share knowledge among ourselves. So the knowledge, of course, as I mentioned to you, they come from best practice and also lesson learned. This is something that we have discussed before. Bad data will impact with the wrong decision. Okay, and then this is that's why we are trying to see how good of the data can produce the good decision. Okay, so that's why in this case we try to make sure that how do they communicate with each other. Communicate here meaning that we try to promote 3 Cs. We try to promote 3 Cs, not just for communication, but we are also promote collaboration. Collaboration means that working together. Okay, besides that, since we are working together, since communication is number 1, number 2, cooperation, of course, we need to control each other. That's why in this case, once we try to promote knowledge sharing, not all information can be shared. This is very important, because all we're talking about privacy, right? This is something that we need to be considered once we work in collaboration like this. Okay. This collaboration, of course, I try to involve users as number 1, number 2, database manager, system manager, and also programmers. So those are the most person involved. How to make sure that we can manage, or we can easily use the knowledge in our organization. Especially once we try to focus about big data system and development and implementation. Okay. Now, let's try to understand a little bit knowledge about big data. Okay, I think big data basically, once we talk about big data, I try to summarize this one. We cannot forget about this kind of 5 Bs, right? Of course, we have been discussed about 5 Bs already by Mr. Scott just now, but I try to highlight back. Since we're talking about big data, this one, V actually is the first of V, like value actually is very important. Okay? Because, so based on the view that we have, the ultimate goal that we want to produce basically is the value. Right? What do you mean by value? Value is something that we can enhance our quality and productivity. That's why this is very important. Since we're talking about data, and then followed by volume, velocity, verity, and velocity. So these are the 5 V's. Normally, since we're talking about big data, we can see this, how this kind of V's can produce a knowledge, can generate a knowledge. I will discuss about this after this. This is the platform why we as technologists need to consider this one as a good knowledge in order to promote best practice, lesson learned, and so on. Okay, next one, basically, since we talk about value, as I discussed earlier, that value become as number 1, because this is become as business processing. If we build up our business, value must become number one, followed by velocity and veracity, and also volume. Volume meaning that involves data acquisition, meaning that how do we acquire that? And the last one, of course, data creation, right? Data creation about variety, because data actually come from everywhere. As what Mr. Scott mentioned just now, we have Twitter, for example, right? We have Facebook. We have not just Facebook, Twitter was we classified as something like this, socialization of data. You can see like this. This is about, email, about blog, wiki, about many others. Actually, you can see Spark, Mango, right? Mango or Mongo? Yeah. Okay. This is something that data that we have actually from the social media, from flat file, from the table, from everything. So how do we manage this? That's the problem as the technologies that we have, especially once we involve in big data research and development. Okay? Next. Last one. The last part of what we try to promote of knowledge management, we try to promote collaboration. As I mentioned to you just now, we try to promote three C's. The first of C, of course, communication. Second one, in terms of collaboration. And the last one, in terms of what? Control, right? Or coordination. Okay, so that's why in this case, we cannot to be forgotten to talk about four quadrants. Number one, we're talking about same place, same time, different place, right? And then same time, different place, and different time, same place. So these are the things that need to be considered, because once we talk about knowledge management, we're talking about explicit knowledge and tacit knowledge. Okay? Right. Next, since we talk about knowledge management as a system, the system basically we can have based on these four processes. That's why number one, the first function that we can create for knowledge management, basically how to acquire the knowledge, right? After we acquire the knowledge, how to store. That's why in this case, they are involved knowledge ontology, right? On knowledge ontology, for example, is something like we go for the library, right? How do we search for information of the book, for example? We must understand the system cataloging, right? Meaning that the taxonomy of knowledge over there, right? And then, once we have stored, we can, by using the knowledge management process, to disseminate. To disseminate, meaning that to make people or community aware about the knowledge, right? And then alert about the knowledge. And sometimes it's something like you receive your email by today. How do you know that you have 1 email, 2 email, 3 email for the day, and so on? So the system will alert you, right? So this is something that notification or reminder. Okay, and then the last one, we're talking about knowledge application. It's part of the criteria in knowledge management system. Meaning that how do we can visualize the knowledge, for example? How we can analyze the knowledge, and then how we can apply the knowledge at the last one. Or might be knowledge can be utilized again and again, forever and ever. Meaning that by combination of knowledge, we can generate new knowledge. Okay? Right. So we have been talking about this one, about the collaboration technology already. So normally, once we talk about collaboration technology, they can be done or can be performed on time or different time, meaning that synchronous or asynchronous. It's something like we can work online or we work offline. And this is something that we can consider how to we make use our system to work in our community of practice. Okay, so this is the way how do we work basically. Based on the Nanaka, we try to promote scarcity model, meaning that socialization, combination, internalization, and also externalization, meaning that T to T, tacit to tacit, tacit to explicit, explicit to explicit, and also explicit to tacit. So these are once we develop the system, we try to promote this kind of environment, right? In order to people can share their knowledge at a synchronous level or asynchronous level. Okay, now let me try to collaborate this. As I mentioned to you, once we try to combine those theory, we can promote best practice and lesson learned, not the bad learn. Yeah? And, bad practice learn. And this is another one. We can also promote bad practice learn. This is not our focus actually. Right. The next one, we try to promote BKMS, meaning that based on the big data knowledge management, big data knowledge, we come up with knowledge management. We can have knowledge management, big data knowledge management, meaning that we can share among themselves, right? We can promote how to discover the knowledge. Okay, right. So based on that, normally how do we discover the knowledge? We can start from, as I mentioned to you, from the data that we have from here, and then we goes to the information, this, and then goes to the knowledge. This is the normal one. But by using the big data that we have, we can promote like this: big data, information, and actionable insight. Meaning that, lastly, we can have knowledge intelligence. Meaning that, it's something like what we can do of our knowledge by combining them and try to produce a new knowledge. This is called knowledge generation. Right? So that's why in this case, normally, we try to promote BI. Right? BI means what? Business intelligence. Okay. Another view of knowledge that can be shared, basically they come from data. Data meaning that we have context here, we have experience and cognitive, and we have actionable insight over here. So from big data, normally, how do we can make use of the big data? Based on the 5 fields that we have, we analyze, we do the analytical thinking or process over here. We can come up with an information model and trends, and of course, as I mentioned to you just now, we try to promote BI, business intelligence. And this is something that we are looking for. How do we can share this knowledge among the community of practice? Basically, in order to take or to focus more on best practice and also lesson. Okay. This is the last one of how IBM, for example, how do they looking for knowledge of big data, right? IBM, in order to, they have, they try to promote how do they make use of the big data in their organization. Basically, they try to classify the knowledge based on management, number one, integration, and also analyze. And the last one is governance, meaning that how do this knowledge based on the big data, they can manage of the data by itself, content, streaming information, right? And then they can integrate based on data warehouse, and also they can produce data mart or master data, right? And also the last one, they can use those, data from here based on the data warehouse, right? Towards here, and lastly they can produce analyze like this. So they can have big data analysis, cube, right? Stream, and lastly they can produce the last one. Now this is what we're looking for in big data, meaning that we try to make sure that we can produce business analytic application. This is something that how do we can generate new knowledge based on the previous knowledge. Okay? Right. Now, based on those 4 or those 3, we try to produce a system. Because without the system, we just talk about how did they do actually. So to visualize how do we can manage or we can share this knowledge, we transform this knowledge to a model or system, so-called as knowledge management model of managing big data knowledge in collaborative environment. So this is something that I try to share with you, how we can use this system basically. So since we're talking about this one as a system, of course, as technologies to develop the software or the system, normally we're talking about the system architecture. So this architecture, normally, we can focus about 4 things. Number 1, knowledge as a portal, meaning that K portal. Right? In this case, we promote web portal as user interface. And then, followed by knowledge application, meaning that the function of knowledge that we have in terms of navigation and searching. And then we have knowledge service, like in that sense, also publishing. This is something related to knowledge generation. And then the last one, of course, knowledge repository, right? So these are the main architecture or layer that we have in order to promote knowledge management as a system. Okay? Right, so how do they work together? Normally we can have the architecture something like this. So meaning that we can promote the big data knowledge of COP over here, and then they can interact for knowledge acquisition here, K acquisition, K storage, K dissemination, and last one of course, K application. So those functions basically, we try to make use of the system knowledge architecture through internet, intranet, and also extranet, right? This is the combination. But now actually, we come to the new term basically over the cloud. So that's why everything that we have as the knowledge, normally knowledge as a service, right? So this is talking about knowledge management as a service, right? So that's why in this case, we are not talking about one organization, we're talking about multiple organizations, right? So that's why, I don't know whether you're aware or not, we are actually live in the context of, knowledge management as a service. Meaning that if we have the service from one organization, we can integrate those services that we have into the cloud-based system, right? As what Google try to promote by using email, by using Google Doc, many others. Okay? Right. Last one, in terms of knowledge management as a system, we cannot be forgot to promote the non-functionality requirement. That's the previous one. I tried to promote the functionality requirement, right? Based on the SCSI, but the next one basically is based on the non-functional requirement, because the system basically they are divided into two, right? Functional requirement and non-functional requirement. For this case, I prefer to use MATCOM model, right? Proposed 1977, basically they start by product definition as a system, right? Product transition, and the last one, product operation. So in order to make sure that the KMS can be worked properly, of course, these kind of factors need to be considered. Meaning, correctness, reliability, efficiency, integrity, and the last one, of course, ease of use or user-friendly, usability, right? So these are the main components. One, we try to promote the knowledge management as a system to make sure that people will be happy to use it. Okay? Of course, we have to also think about maintainability, flexibility, testability, portability, reusability, and interoperability. And this is something that need to be considered. Normally, to me, for the product division and product transition, basically is more on the developer side rather than user side. Okay? As a user, we are here actually. Okay? Right. So now, let's try to understand, to bring you to understand how knowledge management system can manage from one process to another process. Let me start by the process of knowledge acquisition. We try to promote this one, big data knowledge, basically. So once we talk about big data knowledge, they can be involved big data development, big data planning, big data outcome or discovery, and the last one, of course, big data reporting. So this big data normally we can have like this. This is coming back to my previous presentation, meaning that knowledge of big data we can categorize in terms of what? Knowledge value, volume, veracity, and the last one velocity. Okay. Since we're talking about that, so we can actually promote the collaboration technology, because we try to acquire knowledge in terms of tacit and explicit. So we make use this one, synchronous technology and asynchronous technology. Synchronous meaning that we can use the real time, and then asynchronous meaning that we can use offline or different time. Okay? Right, next, since we're talking about knowledge as a process for the second one, normally we're talking about storage and ontology. So this one basically involves ontology 1, ontology 2, ontology 3. What do you mean by ontology 1, 2, and 3? Basically, it's knowledge mapping. Meaning, we have the first layer, second layer of knowledge, second layer of knowledge. Normally, we not have a limited of layers. Depend. The deep that we go for knowledge storage, meaning that it's more accurate, right? So that's why normally we have 3 levels only. Level 1, level 2, level 3. It's enough actually. It's something that you go for the library. If you want to looking for one book, then we have the, the main categorized, and then sub-categorized, and then another sub-categorized, up to the 3 layers. And this is something that ontology 1, 2, and 3. For example, if we have go for the ontology 4, normally it goes to the programmers, meaning that they are involved data dictionary, right? For the programmers and also the developers. Okay, this is the example how knowledge can be, can be deposited into the knowledge repository based on the classification. I just given just only 2 kind of level of ontology. Number 1, we have knowledge value. Knowledge, second, we have knowledge volume, knowledge variety, knowledge veracity, and the last one is knowledge veracity. Meaning that, if you're talking about, for example, knowledge veracity, they are involved authenticity, right? Trustworthiness, originality, availability, and also the last one, very important, accountability. Meaning that, in terms of responsibility, right? So this is something that knowledge we can be categorized and stored into the system. Okay, so what kind of availability knowledge that we can make use? They can have a list of procedures or guideline. This is something that we need to develop in our organization. Okay, next. Do I need to explain one by one about this? Yeah. How many hours? Half an hour. Okay. How many hours will we do? Another half an hour. Okay. Because this is in the middle of my day. Okay. Based on this kind of repository, right? We can also promote how the system can be made use the intelligence system. This is how KMS involve knowledge management. KMS involve the RS actually, intelligence system. I'm not talking about information system. RS here actually is information security or intelligence system. Meaning that we try to promote how the communication system is making based on this one. The first thing that KMS need to be produced basically is in terms of theory-based system, right? If we have a system, we cannot make theory, meaning that the system is not so good. This is one function. Second function normally, of course, reporting. So once we talk about reporting, there are 3 kinds of reporting we can produce here. Of course, the report can be ad hoc. Ad hoc meaning that no plan. Second one, we have periodical report, meaning that the period of time that you are required. Yearly, half yearly, monthly, weekly, or daily, something like that. And then the last one, of course, we have annually report, meaning that something that we have to plan before. What kind of report do we need to produce at the end of the year, for example? Okay? So these are things of KMS conventionally, meaning that once we support the system must have this. Okay, the next one is something that the additional value of KMS, meaning that we need to produce the system that have intelligent capabilities, right? So in this case, I try to propose push technology and also pull technology. Once we talk about pull, meaning that we try to talk about how we can make use the ETL, for example, right? ETL, extract, transformation, and loading, right? To produce this kind of report or system, right? For searching system. And then the most important is here. This is what I was talking too much. It's something like we can make use intelligent system or by using agent technology, right? By using agent technology, we can alert the community. What are the new knowledge of today? What are the new knowledge of this, this community, for example? And then not just alert, but we notify them, right? Alert meaning that something that we remind them, right? Okay. And then we notify. Notify meaning that is something like what kind, how many new knowledge that we have. Something like we have WhatsApp, for example, right? We can see if we have 5 not read yet, so then the system will produce something like that. Okay. Next, since we're talking about application as a system, for example, in this case, These are something need to be considered. Number one, we must promote user-friendly system. This is because of the system that we have normally involves UI, right? UI here is something related to user interface. So in this interface, normally we must promote user-friendly. And then, of course, coming back to what I was mentioned before, talking about system availability. This is another thing need to be considered. And then, notable of new knowledge generation. This is something that we can make use. If we have knowledge 1, knowledge 2, knowledge 3 in our system, by combining 1 plus and 2, for example, we can produce the knowledge of new one, meaning that the third knowledge, for example. This is that we can be notable of new knowledge generation. Okay, lastly, about the application of the system. Meaning, we must promote this one. Meaning, by using the big data knowledge, we can promote dimensional knowledge. Meaning, we can promote in terms of multi-platform. Okay? Not just multi-platform. Sometimes we are multi-format. That's why in this data, in big data, we have, data in terms of semi-structured, unstructured, or structured, something like that. So this is the multi-dimensional. That's why it's in our database right now, we're not looking for rational RDMS only. Right now we're talking about no SQL meaning. Right? What does it mean? There is no structured query language anymore. This is for the unstructured or semi-structured. And then we can have promote data integration by using Hadoop and API. This is something, another thing, right? Need to be considered for multi-platform. And also, the important thing is naming convention or standardized, right? Standard in terms of the source of data, because the data can be anywhere. So in this case, in order to communicate, we must have standardization. Okay, standard data. Sometimes we're talking about naming convention. What do we mean by naming convention? Something that we can. If somebody talk about A, for example, A will give the same meaning to others, right? Meaning that A will not carry multiple meaning. Okay, and then we have cross-infrastructure analytics. This is another one, because we have multi-platform from the iOS, for example, from Android, from the Linux, from every kind of operating system. We can easily manage the data. Alright? So that's why in this case we have cross infrastructure. And then we have scalability, can be extended, right? And then real time potentially. This is very important because something that we have, we want to know something current, right? Current meaning that up to date. Okay. Goes to my second last part of presentation, issues, okay, and challenge. For your information, since we're talking about KMS as a tool for us, right, to manage knowledge of big data, I will propose, I try to highlight 5 challenges of issues. Number 1, this is something very important about knowledge service operation and also standardization, right? Because once we acquire the knowledge, they can easily store in our system. Right? I don't know whether you're aware or not. How do you manage your data of your Facebook, for example? How do you manage your data about Twitter, for example? Manage meaning that how to retrieve back, to access back what we have previous data that we stored before. This is something we need to have a good platform in terms of their standardization. And also, of course, the second one, security. Because when we share, we cannot avoid to control. This is something related to role-based access control, RBAC. Right? Once we talk about role-based access control, we must talk about security and privacy. Because we don't want something that we have in our knowledge system, everything can be accessed, everybody can access. That's why, for your information, knowledge management system normally promote PMS. PMS. What do you mean by PMS? personal management system. If you try to communicate with the system, they will work based on your profiling. This is very important to make sure that the system will be more secure. If you are not profile yourself, not put information of your profile into the system well, meaning that the system cannot be triggered and send the right information to you. That's why sometimes we consider as spam, right? Or virus. Okay? And then the last one, the third one, basically is about legality. This is something to promote RUICD. RCURID. Create, read, insert, delete. I stand for what? You know about that? CRUID. Yeah? C, create, R, read, U, update, I, insert, D, delete. This is something like, we want to know this because we try to promote the data that we have can be sustained forever. We not just to make sure that the system that we have just for today, but forever and ever. And that's why this is for the purpose of knowledge sustainability. This is very important, you know, especially when we talk about knowledge management in education. I don't know whether you're aware or not. Knowledge management in education, we have a lot of knowledge of lecturers. That's why right now we try to promote MOOC. Yeah? What do you mean by MOOC? Massive online course. Meaning that if UUM, for example, they have a good knowledge in business, do UPM to promote and to teach the same thing? Try to think about that. Yeah? If UPM good in agriculture, does UUM will have the same knowledge to re-venture or to reinvent in the way, something like that? I think for us, once we have more, actually, the number of lecturers might be reduced. Because we try to promote knowledge sharing. Yeah? UAM offer business, UPM offer agriculture, Mahdi Ramsey, for example, offer another subject. We are working together around the world. Yeah? Lastly, who want to produce the certification? Try to think about it. Okay. Okay, goes for number 4, issues. In this case, once we talk about system, performance is very important. You know what you mean by performance? Meaning that response time, right? And then not just response time, meaning that in terms of backup, yeah, and recovery to monitor the system, for example. That's why we need to have knowledge audit. You know, knowledge audit is very important because none of the knowledge that we can be stored forever and ever. That's why knowledge that we keep into the system normally must be verified. Because the knowledge that we store is the best knowledge. It's not the bad knowledge. Yeah? Okay. And then the last one, of course, how manage or how to make sure that the system can be managed well. This is in terms of knowledge governance. Right? Knowledge management governance. So that's why in this case, since we have big data, we have 5 of these that we have. How to make sure that the 5 of these can be implemented in our organization towards, to the benefit of community of practice. So that's why in this case we can see knowledge transfer, sharing, search, storage, analysis, knowledge. This is the very important in terms of analysis. We're talking about knowledge visualization, right? And so we have knowledge velocity, volume, right? Verity, knowledge capture, veracity, knowledge correction, knowledge storage, and of course the last one is knowledge analysis as a part of it, of visualization. This is to cover the overall of knowledge governance in the big data. Okay? Right, as a conclusion, since we promote knowledge management of big data, we try to manage the best practices, number 1. Number 2, we try to promote a form of conventional and intelligent system of care of the system in our environment. The third one, right? We try to promote the collaborative environment, meaning that the system can be worked at any time. and also the most important is anyway, right? Anytime, anyway. And then the last, the third, the fourth one basically is need to be considered about the lesson learned to promote the 5 base features or component. And the last one, we try to promote in terms of how those knowledge of big data can be easily produced in terms of the purpose of decision making process. Right? So with that, thank you very much.
For the insightful address, I now open the floor for questions.
It's okay. Just to ask, how actually the current system can capture tacit knowledge? Can you give some example?
Okay, thank you for the good question. Before I answer what is the best current system to capture the tacit knowledge, let me explain first. Do you feel that what is the best of how the system can capture explicit knowledge? Okay, I don't know, in your organization, do you have the system to capture the explicit knowledge? In your organization? You come from where? UEM. Does UEM have the system to capture the explicit knowledge?
Is it like the information about the staff or something?
Okay.
Publication is part of the explicit knowledge?
Okay, let me explain to you, share with you. We are in UPM, we have knowledge management portal, meaning that knowledge management system. So far, if I am as a staff, since we want to measure my KPI, all the knowledge that I have delivered to the community need to store into the knowledge system as one of the KPI. So this knowledge basically involve explicit knowledge, meaning that documentation. Okay. The question is how do we want to store explicit knowledge? Okay. For your information, coming back to the previous slide. Normally for the tacit knowledge, actually it's very hard to store because if I want to share my knowledge, user need to understand what type of knowledge that they want to deposit first. Meaning that they want to know where they need to participate actually. Right? So that's why in this case, normally we try to promote forum. Yeah? Or sometimes, I don't know, you aware or not? On social media, WhatsApp?
Yeah.
How do you want to reply your previous message? Let's say you have 100 of messages you want to take part. You have 100 of title, right? How do you want to participate? One of 100, for example. Normally we reply back. You know how to use the WhatsApp? We click over the message that want to be replied, and then we have the reply symbol, and then just reply. And this is one. What happened? Another person want to reply. Right? This one actually, this is the beauty of knowledge management system that was developed by using Lotus Note, for example, as a group web. They have a facility so-called as respond to respond. Respond to the document is number one, and then respond to this document. So lastly, we can have the shape like this. I hope you understand what I mean. The big data, the main token is the top one, and then we reply something like we reply to all, in our email. In our email, if you want to reply, we have reply. The lastly, we go to the end one. And this is about tacit knowledge because we change from tacit into explicit. The best way is to answer your question is try to convert tacit to explicit first, and then store into the system. That's why, as an academician, we need to write. Okay. Next.
Any more questions from the floor? Okay. If there's no question, there's probably a sign that your tummy is grumbling. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our opening and keynote sessions. I hope you have found today's presentations informative and useful. To honor our keynote speakers, may I please invite Prof. Shahada again to the stage to hand our mementos of appreciation. I would also like to invite Mr. Scott Lee to the stage.